Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. I'm Angela Wolf, and we are at your side virtually. I'm a Brother Brand Ambassador, and we are live on the Brother Sewing and Crafting YouTube and Facebook pages. So say hi, say where you're from. You never know, your neighbor might be sewing next to you or fishing this time of the year. So I have an excellent guest today. We have an educator coming on that's going to talk about quilting. She's going to show you some examples of how to do this. I misspoke and said it was edge to edge, and she's like, oh, this is different. So not different, but cool. Let's go with that. Hey, Arnell, I'm giving you like the big gold button today, not only because you're on every single show, but you're like the first always, and you are the best. So nice to see you, Arnell. All right, so I know there's other things going on today, so we so appreciate you being here with us today. And let's not wait any longer. Let's bring Cathy up. Hi, Cathy. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you. And you?
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Fantastic.
So, Cathy, tell everyone what you're going to be working on, because I wrote down as edge to edge, and you said it's more than that.
It basically is edge to edge. It's the edge to edge technique. I call it all over quilting. You have your custom quilting where you do different kinds of quiltings in different areas to maybe make the quilt pop. And then you have all over quilting. And that's just to sort of get the job done pretty and nice, but it just gets the job done. It makes your 3 layers all one. And it's the same design all over. And what I wanted to show is that the Luminaire 2 has 2 built-in designs that you can use for this. And I wanted to show you those 2 built-in designs so that we can do the quilting with those.
That's awesome. So you're going to be using the Luminaire XP2. Are you going to be using My Design Center at all?
No, not today.
Okay, because I know everyone's going to ask that, so I'm clearing it up right away.
Yeah, no, this is just for the built-in, and hopefully sometime soon I'll be able to do the all-over quilting, doing a whole pattern with My Design Center, so that you can do your edge-to-edge and all-over quilting with that.
Awesome. You might be coming on next week to finish that. But now we're here this week, and the crowd has rolled in. So, Cathy.
Oh, yay. Yay. Okay.
So I'll let you get started.
All right. So I have some samples. So if you give me a second, I'll get over there to the table and I can show you what this design looks like. And then we'll bring it up on the machine.
Awesome. See you in a second. All right, while she's switching, I'm just letting you all roll in. So by the way, yesterday was a really fast show on my page, and I made it shorter because, there's other events going on right now, and I've been working on the green trench coat. And by the way, I finished quite a bit yesterday afternoon, so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. It was a lot of fun. All right, there's Cathy. I can see you great, Cathy.
All right, so here are some of the quilts. And in the Luminaire, you have 2 of the quilt designs. One is this large swirl pattern. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so this is just, and you do it in the 16 by 10 5/8 inch hoop. So it doesn't take much time at all to get this all done. And this one, you really can't see on the back because it's black, and I did it. But if you look real close here, you can see a pin cushion. And,
oh, that's so cute.
And here is a spool of thread and a sewing machine down here, or right here. Here you can see a sewing machine maybe. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then there's some scissors. So this is an all-over pattern with a sewing theme. So I have done a couple of these. I have done several. So this is the same pattern as this. So let's go on over to the machine. So I'm going to switch cameras again, and we'll go on over to the machine, and I'll show you where these designs are.
All right, that sounds good. Those quilts are gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. All right, while she's switching to the machine, just take that sound off just for a sec. She'll give me a thumbs up when she's there. I know, isn't it gorgeous? Absolutely beautiful. I'm really getting into designing your fabric with using quilt embroidery, I should say. You can just do so many things. And I had no idea this was built into the machine, by the way. Maybe I did and forgot. That's usually what happens. There's so many different things. All right, Cathy, we have you back.
All righty. Okay, so here is the machine. So I am going to go into, whoops, I already brought it up, so let's go over here. So I'm going to touch embroidery and the butterfly, the first category, and I'm going to scroll all the way over to number 15. That's the new design category that came with the new upgrade, the 2. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and if you look at the bottom, here they are. They're 049 and 050. So you have 2 all over quilting patterns in this machine. So we're going to bring up this one. And there you are. I'm going to go to set. And let's see if we can bring this up. So if you see, well, I'm going to just use my fingers. I had my stylus, but I don't know what it is. If you see right here, you're going to have your end point. And right over here is your start point. So those are what we're going to line up. And of course, you've got the wonderful features in here with your projection and your scanning. We're not going to have to scan, and we can project, but there's a different way that I'm going to show you, but it lines up absolutely beautifully. So we're going to close this, and I'm going to go to embroidery. And if you see, when you have a design, when you bring up a design in the machine, it's always going to go to center. That's not where it's going to start sewing, but that's where it's always going to go. I'm going to come down here to this button right here, and it's like your trial button. But I want this to always start right over here. I know that's my first stitch. I could go and bring it to the first stitch, but if I touch right here, the green arrow, the green cross popped right over there, and now I'm going to always start stitching there. So I'm going to do a pattern, and then when I want to move it, it's still going to be right there, so I don't have to keep going back and forth and doing +1 stitch. So this right here, when you pick one of these spots, and that's telling it, so if I wanted to start up in the corner, if my starting point was up in the corner, I could always start there or over here. I want to start right here, and you can see that it's right on that tail of that stitch. Make sense? Any questions?
That makes sense. No questions yet. There's always a little delay, so I'll bring them up in just a second.
Okay. Now, if you look up here, you're going to see that this design is 14.77 by 9.85. So our wiggle room is not a whole lot. So we want to make sure that we hoop fairly carefully, because if you don't and you need to move it, you're not going to have much moving room. You're going to have some, but you're not going to have a whole lot. So if I come to layout and I go to move, I can move it over here just a little bit, 0.14 inches. And then,
wow.
Yeah, so I just don't have, and all the way to the other, I have the 0.43. And up and down, I have 0.63. So it's about 1/2 inch is your wiggle room that you have. So I'm going to put it back to center. So you want to remember that. And also, if you go to rotate these, let's go say okay, and let's go back here. I know you've all noticed the red box that goes around your design. And that's your outer parameters of your design. So that's what the machine sees. Now, if I rotate that just a little bit, it's going to be bigger than the 14.77 because these corners are going to go out of the area. So it's going to have to rotate at 180 degrees. So that's sometimes when you have a 5x7 design, and you know that's going to fit in your 5x7 hoop, if you have rotated it at all, it might be out of your area because of the way the machine sees it after it's rotated. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm going to go to embroidery now. And I'm going to come back here and put it over here and say okay. So are we ready to hoop our fabric?
I think we are. That sounds fabulous. And you know, someone was wondering, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, Cathy. Do you know if those built-in designs are also in the still air or just in the luminaire?
Now, this is too big for the Stellaire.
Okay.
I believe, I'm not sure if they have any, I'm pretty sure that they have some quilting designs built in, but I'm not positive.
Which ones they are. Okay, I'll check for you.
But you can always find these designs. They're a lot of different places. So I just want to let you see that there are some built in, but you can always get these designs edge to edge or all over Quilting Designs other places. So the technique is going to be the same.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right, we'll wait till you go back over to where your hoop is. And while you're doing that, Patricia, I know you said you got to go. So if you would like to save this, you are watching this on YouTube. So you can come back to the Brother Sewing YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and you can come back and binge watch all you want. As soon as we're not live anymore, then you can watch the replay. All right, we can see you.
All right. So
hey, Glenda, I don't think it's an echo. I think it's her air conditioner. So I'll just be quiet.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm by my vent and it's a little warm here, so it's being.
We're not going to have you turn it off because you'll be passing out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what I have done first is I hooped a piece of tearaway stabilizer and I sewed out the design. And once I sewed it out, I took a pin and I marked all the way around the hoop. And then I put an arrow at the top of the design, which is wrong. This needs to go this way. So I put the arrow at the top of the design so that when I put this on the quilt, I can press this down. I've got double-sided tape on the back of it here. And I can press this down and then take this out and push my outside hoop underneath. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Could you just lay that down one more time, just because your arm was just in the way just a little bit?
Which one?
There we go. We just couldn't see the marking because your arm was there.
Does everybody know how to find the top of their hoop?
Why don't you tell them, just in case?
It's this little, there's two arrows at the top here and a little knob. And so this is the top. It's going to fit into this little place here, and then you have your two arrows. So these arrows and these little cutouts and the little knob here are the top of your hoop. So you always want to make sure that you have this at the top of your hoop. Right there. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to now drag this on over here. So I have already, now this is a fairly large quilt. This is 73 by 50 something or another. It's fairly large. So you can do a large quilt with the Luminaire and a lot of these machines because you're just going to roll this up nice and tight. All right, first I'm going to move this down. Tell me when I'm getting in my way here. Let's straighten it out some. Now, the other end, this one ended right here. So I'm going to take this and put that end right there and straighten it up. Straighten it up. Now I start, most quilters are going to tell you to start in the middle and work out. And with this, I just start on one side and go all the way over. And it's because I can fit so much in the area in the throat of the machine. If I couldn't fit very much in there, I would have to go side to side. Another reason quilters like to do that is because you're going to get a fold in your backing. But because I'm hooping this, I can always look on the back and see if I have a fold there and just rehoop. So I don't concern myself as much with that as I probably should. But anyway, I think it turns out fine. So I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to make sure, I try to use part of the quilt and the guide to make sure that I have this straight. So here we are, here we go, and this is about the same from here to here. And then these are going to be about the same distance from there. So that looks good.
So just a quick question, Cathy, while you have that, just a quick question. Maureen wants to know that piece of fabric that you have on there, how did you base that?
Oh, I've got it pinned.
Oh, you've got it pinned.
I've got it pinned, yeah. I just put some pins every once in a while, then when I get to where I need to take them out, I just take my pins out.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm going to move over here. Am I in the way? Can you see?
Nope, we can't. We just see your fabric.
Okay. So I'm going to lay this hoop right on top of that template and give it a push. And now I can take my template out. And it looks like it's pretty good. I've got a little bulge here, but I think that's down further. I think it's my table. Okay. I'm mumbling, ignore me. All right, so now I'm going to take my bottom hoop and I'm going to slide it underneath. And I want to make sure that I have this open here. Can you see that? Because I have set my hoop. I've got my hoop set, so it's just the right opening to be able to snap this in, and then I can tighten it with my latch here.
And that's something that you would have to do in advance to figure out how much extra room you would need in that hoop to make sure you had room for that whole quilt.
I can show them how to do that. All right, so now it's all pressed in there. So remind me to, if they want to see how to set the hoop, I can do that.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'm going to latch it closed. So this is the hardest work, is to get this over to the machine. So I'll get this over to the machine and we can come back when I've got it over there.
Okay. All right, well, she's moving over to the machine. So that was pretty simple. By having that template there, you place that right in onto the fabric where you want it and then do the hooping. That's a total reverse way that many of us think of doing that. So I see, if you have any questions though, feel free to ask them because she'll take a break when she's finished. I can answer some of them, but not all of them. Let's see. Oh, Deborah. Yeah, magnetic hoops do make it easier. Well, it depends. It depends what you're doing. I mean, we have that new magnetic hoop for the Luminaire, which is awesome. And that would make it easier. Just have it on the bottom and you'd have the template on the top. So either way would work. But, you know, not everybody has that. So I thought this would probably be a better way to show it, especially depending on what machine you have. But I do agree. Let's see. What else do we have? I don't see Cathy at her machine yet. So we'll ask her, Marilyn, if she does it the same way. I would do it the same way with the magnetic hoop, but because that was pretty easy. All right, Cathy's not quite back yet. And Charlene, I see your question. So some of these that you're asking technical things, I'll have her come up and talk about those when she's back up. So, oh, she's here at the machine.
Now, the reason that I'm using this hoop here is that it's the design is too large for the magnetic hoop.
There you go.
The magnetic hoop is 7 by 14, and this design is almost 10 by almost 15.
So if you were using a smaller design though, Cathy, wouldn't you basically do the exact same process, except if you're using the magnetic hoop, you'd have that thing on the top?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Okay. So here I am at the machine, and you can see my needle is over close to where that is. I'm going to go ahead and come in here, and I don't know if it'll help or not. I guess you can see okay. I'll just leave it. So I want to make sure that it's right where it needs to be. So I can turn on my light here, and I can see it shine down, and it looks like it's almost exactly where it needs to be. But I can also come in and do my projection. And wait, and then get my projection box. This is where I'm going to go ahead and turn the light off on the machine. I will turn the light off here, and then we'll just come back in and turn it off so maybe you can see better.
Oh, yeah. Oops, wrong one. Hold on a second. I'm like, oh, I can see it. I can see it. Yeah, now we can definitely see that blue.
So I'm going to drag this on over here. And so with the projection, and I left it blue, you can see right there that it just connects up beautifully. It's right where it needs to be. I have this on the dark. You have a lighter, or you have the lightest there. So you can see either way. I turned the light off so you can see these, but you have different ways that you can see your projection down on your fabric. So whichever is easiest for you is what you need to do. It looks like it could be just a little bit. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay?
Okay.
So now I'm going to say okay here. We love to say okay. And then I'll go ahead and turn the light back on. So I'm going to come to my settings and go to page number 4 and turn my light back on. Now I also want to make sure that I have my auto start for embroidery with my needle so that I can just push the start button and go. And I think that's all we need in the settings. So there we go. All right, so now I do not want to, I want a thread tail so that I can bury my threads later on. So I want to bring up that bobbin thread. So I've got my thread here, and I'm going to hold it kind of taut and do needle down and needle up, and I'm going to bring up my thread off. So I've got my bobbin thread up, and that way I can bury those later on. Now I'm going to come into the little, that's where your tension and your scissors are. I'm going to come in here, and those this is your end color trim and your jump stitch trim. Well, I'm going to turn those off, and that means that the scissors are not going to be used on this design. So at the end,
Cathy, can you just turn the camera that just a little bit? We can't see the button you're pressing. Thanks.
So let me say okay here. So it's this button right here where you see
okay.
This, and that's these two right here. When they're on, they're dark, and when you turn them off, they're light.
Okay.
So and this is where you come change your tension. Now I have got the same thread in the bobbin that I have as my top thread, but I'm not going to change my tension at all. I think it works well, especially if I use the bobbin that comes the bobbin case that comes with the machine. It really does work really well. So are we ready to sew?
Sure. You want to move your camera back over to the?
I will.
Charlene, she read your mind. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So I'm going to hold these threads out of the way and just press start because I didn't have to push my foot down because I have my auto thread down. and just let it sew. And this design takes about 5 minutes. So is there any questions?
Yeah, let's see. You've answered, you've kind of answered, you read their minds without even knowing it, because Charlene wanted to know if you're going to turn off the scissors, which you did. Somebody asked, so Suzette, she says, can I use this method on the 1600? Well, most of the method, you don't have the projector on there, but the same thing would be the same for the hooping, correct? Wouldn't you say, Cathy?
Yes. Yeah. You can use this method on any machine. You're just going to have to line things up a little bit differently.
Yeah.
You may have to drop your needle to see if it's where it needs to be and line things up. One thing that I want to make sure that, because I've messed this up a couple times, is that it's so easy. That template shows you up and it shows you your design. But what it doesn't show you is if you're just a little bit crooked. You can be right, you can have your start and stop points matched perfectly, but it could be just rotated just a couple degrees. And then as you go along, it just gets worse and worse. And so what I like to do is I'll take a look at part of the quilt, and if I have a straight line there, I will use that, or I'll take a ruler and put it along the border and use that as a guide to make sure that my template is straight. Make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Because I have gaps in some of them because I didn't pay attention.
There's here's a couple. Carolyn wants to know, what was that topper made out of? You know, that piece of fabric, your template?
Oh, that's just tearaway. You just want something that you can see through, and it's a tearaway. And because, oh goodness, my bobbin is almost out.
Of course, because we're live.
Okay, well, it shows you how to change your bobbin. I'm going to touch this button here so I can bring the carriage forward. It's going to cut the thread for me, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. We'll not worry about that. And then I'm just going to bring this forward.
This is always when you're like, oh, usually for me it happens like when I only have a couple stitches left.
If you only have a couple stitches left, go to your settings and turn the sensor off. And then you can just continue sewing. And then change.
That is a great tip.
That really works well. I've used it often. And it just takes just a little bit to turn that sensor off, and then you don't have to restart anything.
The other thing I want to point out is when you remove that hoop, you were very careful that it didn't just pop open, because all of a sudden that would be a nightmare to try to reposition.
Okay, so I'm just going to not worry about that right now and just get this spring back on here. So I just moved the fabric underneath that foot.
I agree, Sally.
And keep going, and then come over and slide it in and push it down. And there you go. You want to make sure that if you have a large quilt that's heavy, try to make sure that you get that bulk up and so that it's not pulling on the hoop, so the hoop doesn't tilt down. That doesn't, because then the machine doesn't know, it doesn't really know where the center is anymore, because the sensor is in our arm, so it knows what size you have. And if that sensor gets pushed off, it doesn't know what size you have anymore, and it gets a little grumpy.
A little grumpy, that's a good way for it.
All right, so I'm going to do.
Diane says, do you ever use the camera feature to line things up?
Yes, I do, but with.
I love the projector.
Yeah, you know, I love the camera and the scanning, and I use that quite a bit. But when you're doing something like this, the less I have to move this fabric, the better. And with the scanning, the frame goes back and forth. So the less I have to move this quilt around, the better off I am. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, especially with all that bulk in there. That does make sense.
So that I do use it a lot, and I love it, but sometimes I don't use it for this. And I did back up, and I should have waited to bring up my thread after I backed up, but I didn't, so that's okay.
So, hey, Cathy, here's another question for you. Marianne wants to know, do you know what the stitch length is, and is it really tight like embroidery?
No, I don't, but it looks like about two millimeters. It looks like a normal stitch length.
Yeah. But it only takes 5 minutes to embroider. It's not, I don't think it's going to be real bulky.
No, it's, I just really like this method. It takes a little getting used to, but I don't have to move it, and the machine does all the work. I have to lug the quilt around, but other than that, I'm good to go. So one other thing, there's something else that I want to show after this is done. And I don't know if anybody has had the problem. If you quilt off the edge, or you sew off the edge, or you have a couple edges on something, and the toe of the foot gets underneath that top fabric, and all of a sudden you've got a big mess. Machine stops and gives you an error, and you've got a thread.
I have.
So I would like to show you how I kind of watch out for that. I usually don't leave these because it doesn't take too long to do them, and you just never know what may happen, so I kind of like to stick with it. If I'm just doing a regular embroidery, sometimes I'll take off and do other things, but with this, because of the bulk and all what's going on, I kind of like to stay with it.
Julie has a good question, and it's because the machine tells you, but she says, how do you know where to start when you've replaced the bobbin? It starts right back where you stopped.
Exactly, yes. These machines are they're amazing. They not only just go right back to where they were, they know how to do that, but if something should happen and your machine gets turned off, there, we're done. When you turn the machine back on, it will go right back to where it was.
And that is a great feature, especially if you're like for some reason you lose power for a moment, which you hope that doesn't happen, especially when your machine's on, or you don't want to embroider for another hour because your day's over. You turn it off, turn it back on. I used to always write the numbers down just in case, but I've never had one time where it didn't say, do you want to bring up the old design? It's perfect.
And or you trip over the cord.
Did you know? Could you tell I was going to share that? And I was like, no, that sounds like I'm a really big clumsy person, but I have tripped over the cord.
Yes, I've tripped over the cord. Okay, so I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to cut the bobbin thread, and there you are.
I agree, Jeanette. Sometimes the machines are smarter than us, definitely.
Yes. So there we are.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Now I can bury those threads however I want. And you can see that if you look at the back, you're not going to get the folds like, I haven't got any folds yet. I'll probably do it I'll probably do it later on today. But anyway, it's a great method, and it gets it done quickly. You can see what a large area I have here that was done in 5 minutes.
Wow, absolutely gorgeous and easy to do.
And if you can see, I don't know if you can see these stitches, but do you see how nice this looks on the back?
Yeah.
And this was just with the regular thread that I'm using on the top, I used in the bottom. And so your stitches look very even. You don't have the top thread being pulled to the back because of the same weight.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Okay. All right. Well, let me go ahead and go hoop the other fabric and come back and show you about when the foot goes off the edge. We have off the edge sewing. All right. I'll be back in a minute.
All right. So while she's leaving, I'm reading your comments, Marianne, or your dog trips over the cord. It's usually Win that trips over the cord, or me, not the dog. But that's funny. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Super simple. You saw how fast that was. She did that whole section in that huge hoop in 5 minutes. Well, actually, maybe 6.5 because she had to change the bobbin. That's it. How easy is that? So when I see her come back up here, I will see. Are you ready? Cathy?
Oh, well, I'm hoping I go back to the machine. I'll be right back.
Okay. She'll be right back. Yes, I agree. That's a good question, Jacqueline. I'll ask her when she comes back up here. Because that's the big thing, to rehoop. How do you do that? And know what order to do everything in. So Deborah, I'll ask her opinion as well, but I actually use the same thread in the top and bobbin. I do. So I'll see what she says too. I know, so pretty, right? All right, I think I see her almost ready. She's back at the machine. Oh, Pat says she has a tendency to knock her machine, touch the screen. That's not what you want to do. All right. All right, Cathy, I'm bringing you back up.
Okay, hold on.
Hey, Cathy.
Yes.
Just a quick question, because I have my own opinion, but Deborah wants to know, while you're getting that set up, is it better to use the same thread in the bobbin as the top, or does it matter?
Well, I like to do that because I like the looks of it.
Yeah, I do too.
Here, let me get out of here. I like the looks of having the same color on the top and the bottom, and that way, if the top thread gets pulled to the bottom, you're not going to see it.
Right. What Joanna wants to know, what weight thread were you using?
This is just this is a 40 weight.
Okay.
I have used cotton thread, and I have used quilting thread. So it's just whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And then there was a couple questions that they wanted to know when you go to recoup that, if you have tips for that as well, once you're done with this part.
When you go to rehoop?
Yeah, to rehoop if you're going in a row.
Well, you're just going to line up your start and stop points. So
just like she did at the beginning. You're going to line up your start and stop points and use that same template.
Right. So always use your template. Put your template down where you want to sew. Use your template first. Line it up. Make sure that it's straight. And then stick that top hoop on top of it that has the tape on it. And that way it's not going to move. So you just use double-sided tape on the bottom of that hoop. And I can show you where it's at if you want. And that way, well, I need a hooping 101 lesson, how to get it on the machine. Here we go. All right.
It's really fun when you're doing it over a video camera.
I'm sorry, I probably makes everybody. Anyway, so when you go ahead and you start sewing, I'm going to go ahead and forward up here. Okay. All right. So do you see the foot is up in the batting area? So usually you're going to go ahead and just forward it till you get close to the line there. But what you can also do is you can push and hold in your start button. And when you do that, the machine moves slow. See how slow it's moving? If you're, and then when you get close to where it's going to come up to that fabric, and you can see that the foot is going to go underneath that fabric, you can push stop and lift your foot up and back down, and it will be on top of the fabric, and you won't get that, you won't have the problem. Let me see if I can get it closer in there. Okay, see, do you see how it did that?
Yeah.
See how it's like that? Let's back up. Okay, so if I'm doing this and doing slow, I can see it, and it, because I was going slow, it went ahead and went over. So I didn't have to worry about making a mess. Because
that is a really, really good tip.
That can really destroy your day. Yeah, that's not a pleasant feeling. So
exactly.
Being able to push in the start button and hold it, it has your machine move a lot slower, so you have more control over when to stop it. And that will keep you from having that fabric fold back on you and make a big mess.
I know, Deborah said, I didn't know we could do that. Somebody did this about a year ago, and I was like, I didn't know we could do that either. Huge savings.
Yes, well, yeah, it goes slow and it's going to take some time, but it saves a large headache.
Nice. Very good tip. All right, Joanna says, what size quilt can you do? Any size you want, because you just keep moving this all the way down. What size quilt was that you had on there?
That was, what, 73 by 58 or something like that. It was fairly large.
That's large.
As long as you fit it in here and, get your roll and roll it up tight and have it fit right in here, you're good to go.
Nice.
It's just roll it up as tight as you can, and if it is larger and you can't do that, then you can start in the center and move out, and then turn and move from the center in. So you only have half of the quilt in this area at one time.
Okay.
So you can do really large quilts, because I'm going from one side to the other and can fit it in here, but if I couldn't, then I could go down the middle and go from one side and then turn it and go to the other side.
Hey, Liz wants to know if you would
large.
mind showing that. Liz would like you to show that button one more time.
The start stop button?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. Now it's regular. Now it's regular. Close. Oops, it's going under. So you can see that it's starting to go under. I'm going to lift my foot up, back down, and start. Oops, I didn't do it fast enough. There we go. Lift it up. Now you can see that it's underneath, and there you go. So once you see that fabric start going over that foot, then you can stop it.
You're welcome, Liz. So another reason I'm glad you asked to see that again, because those of you that like to do embroidery in the hoop, which we all, I don't know if you ever tried it, but it's great, especially for making bags and things like that. And there's always layers. I do it a lot for little mug rugs and pillows, and there's always that layer of fabric. You have to go slow. If you're very nervous, you got tape all over it. That was so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah. I have seen people just tape this whole top, and I'm thinking, I don't want to sew through that much tape, and I just don't want to use all that tape. So if you just watch it and use that button and make it go slow and catch it before it turns your fabric, then you're good.
Very good.
So let me see, what else have we got here? Oh, I wanted to show you,
Hey, Michelle wants to know, Jenny wants to know, does that button work on the Dream Machine too?
yes, I believe so, yes. So
Okay.
you see this area here? Here, this is where I put the double-sided tape.
Point it out. It's a little dark.
Right here to here, and just
Okay.
all around the edge. You can see some batting here. So I've got double-sided tape on all 4 sides of the hoop. So on all 4 sides, on the underneath part of the hoop, I've got the double-sided tape. And I use it for about 4 to 5 hoopings, and then I will change the tape out. Now, if I'm on batting, I have to change it about 4 times because the batting really sticks to it. But if I'm just in the center of the quilt, I don't have to change it as much. So this is just double-sided tape, and you just stick it on here, and it just holds the hoop right in place so that you can get that bottom hoop in there.
That's a great tip as well. Linda says, yes, it works on the Dream Machine. Oh, and the Dreamweaver. She found it by accident.
Yay!
Hey, Michelle has a good question regarding what you were just using with that foot that was going up and down. And she says, does it help at all to raise the height of your foot, or does it do anything to your design?
You can raise the height of your foot, but your foot is still going to hop up and down and get caught in that fabric. And you have to be careful because I don't know if you've heard of flagging or not, but flagging is if you get that foot too high, the needle will go down and bring the fabric up with it, and you don't get a good stitch. And when you hear a thunka, 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 that could be that your foot is too high. So you have to be a little careful with that. Because
that's a really good. A thump, a thump. Everyone, that's what you have to listen to. We always say that you can hear your sewing and embroidery machine. I can hear if I'm in a class, I can have somebody in the other room and I can tell if something's wrong because it just sounds different. But the thump, a thump, now that's going to be the new one for the weekend.
Yes, you can definitely hear it. You know, and all of a sudden you're running because you can hear the noise. It's not right.
Oh yeah. Hey, Cecilia wants to know, is that cloth double-sided tape or just regular office double-sided tape?
It's actually a tape. It's a sewing tape that I got. It's double-sided.
A sewing tape, okay. So cloth probably.
Double-sided tape. I use that because I know that it's safe for my fabric. I'm sure other tapes are safe for your fabric, but it's just a double-sided tape, just something tacky, and it's pretty tacky.
Okay. Not literally tacky, just tacky. Like
well,
sticky.
it's tacky to leave it on. But
hey, how do you keep your thread from knotting on that final stitch? Or do you? She said sometimes Bernadette says sometimes she can see that last knot on the back side of her quilt.
I don't have it so much on the back because I turned that off. So it just sort of, the last stitch, let me see if I can go get it and show it to you. Hold on.
So Bernadette, she turned it off. I'm sharing all of your questions, so keep them rolling in. Oh, Susan wants to know, how do you get that tape off?
It comes off fairly easily. So I'm just going to, oops, I kicked you, I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay, no problem. You didn't pull the cord out of my machine, you're good.
So right here, I'm just going to grab a hold of it. Can you see that?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I'll bring you bigger.
Here we go. Here.
Okay.
Okay, so I just started it and I just pull it off.
Oh, yeah, we can see that. That comes off really easy.
Yeah, that just comes off really easily, yeah.
Bernadette wants to know, how do you turn that stitch off?
Okay, hold on just a second. Let me see if I can find my stop point that I did here. Okay.
Donna, that was a good tip.
So,
okay, let's bring you up here.
can they see that? So right here is my stop, and you can see once I bury that thread, you're not going to see anything. Can you see that?
Just barely. Could you bring it over to your, there you go. Yeah.
So right here, and so once I bury that, you're not going to see it.
So to bury that, are you just going to put that through a needle and put it in the middle?
Yep. I'm sorry, yes.
Yep, that's exactly.
I have a needle that has an opening in it, so I can just sort of put it in there. I don't have to thread it. I can sort of spiral it around and then just thread it.
Oh, that's nice. Perfect. Okay, this has just been an excellent tutorial.
So what you're going to do to turn those off, let me see.
All right, she's going to take you over to the machine. I'll make you bigger.
Okay, can you see all the screen there?
Yep, we sure can.
This button here, the scissors, this is your tension. So when you push this, you're going to have these right here. So the tension is at 4. I leave that alone. When you turn this on at first, these are going to be highlighted. That means that it's going to cut the stitches at the end of each color trim, and it's going to cut the jump stitches. So I don't want that, so I'm just going to turn those off. So now it's not going to cut, and sometimes at the end, it doesn't do the tie off, so you're not going to have a big knot.
Okay.
Now,
very
at
easy.
the beginning, you're going to have a little knot, but if you sort of hold those threads, if you bring up your bobbin thread and sort of hold them taut, you're not going to get as big of a knot.
Well, that's good to know too. And for those of you that missed the beginning, as soon as we're not live, you can go back and watch the beginning, and she showed you how to do that.
Right.
Oh, thanks, Karen.
One thing that I do want to show you too, did I show you the lock button?
Nope.
Once I push this, and I'm pushing this quilt around, and that happened to me this morning. I was pushing the quilt around and I hit the screen and it did something. But now when I lock it, I can just touch this and nothing's going to happen. So when you're doing something large like this quilt and you're moving it around and it accidentally touches your screen and you're on another stitch, you're not happy. But if you lock it, you can't do anything. Now you can't do other things too. So I can't say okay here. So I have to unlock it and say okay and get back to my embroidery screen and then lock it, and now nothing will happen. Now I can still use the machine, I can still start things, but I can't, nothing, when I touch this, nothing's going to happen.
Thank you for showing that, because a couple people had mentioned that they lock the screen because they always tend to touch it, and so that was excellent.
It's easy.
Ibby wants to know, do the settings get reset when you're done with that design? Like as far as the cutting off and those 2 buttons that you hit, or does that stay there?
They will not, they'll stay. So if you go to do regular embroidery, remember to turn them back on. I have forgotten that sometimes, and it's not pleasant when I try to, well, I'm wondering, I don't want to trim my jump stitches. Why isn't it cutting my jump stitches? Well, you turned it off.
And just like Deborah says, if you make that foot higher, remember to lower it when you have your next project as well. So keep a little notepad next to your machine, and then that's usually what I do. I also do that to tell me what needle I have in there, just little tips like that. Maybe I was using a different stitch length, then I can remember what project I was on.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, are we doing okay?
Yeah, I think we got everybody. That was an excellent tutorial. You want to come back on screen?
Sure.
All right, well, she's coming back to see if there's any last minute questions. I know, Elaine, it's always good to lock your screen, especially if you're doing a big project. And like she said, all you have to do is just bump it a little bit, and oh, that would not be good. That would not be good. I agree. All right, Cathy's back. So Cathy, here's one for you. Tammy wants to know, how do you get past that fear to cut your fabric the first time? Oh, goodness gracious. Tammy, just cut it. Just cut it. Use, if you're really, well, I have a few pieces I've never cut because it was really expensive. Just start somewhere.
Exactly. If it's something, if it's something that you just really, really want to make something out of, buy a little extra, and it gives you a little breathing room. So, you know that if you make a little mistake that you can always fix it. So just purchase that extra half yard, whole yard, whatever. Just get a little bit extra. That gives you peace of mind.
That's a good tip. That is definitely, unless it's really expensive, then you could start with just a practice fabric, one that's a little less expensive.
Oh yeah, do a muslin. Use muslin, see if that works, and then go from that. Keep your pieces, and maybe do a diary of how you did it so you don't forget. And if it works, it works. If not, toss it away and start again with your muslin.
Out the door.
Exactly.
All right, Maureen says, what needle did you use? What size needle and what needle? Anything specific?
It's just a regular embroidery needle, and if your thread is not behaving, just use a little bit bigger. I have the 75 in there, and if the thread starts shredding or something, I'd go to a bigger needle. So it has, what happens is it has more room in the eye to move up and down, and it's not going to shred as easily.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I just had an excellent tutorial recently with a lady with Rhonda, and we were talking about needles. So it's so interesting that each one has a different purpose.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, I was curious a long time ago about the EL needles that they have for sergers, and I didn't understand so I did some research on it, and the main thing is that it has a groove in the front and the back for the sergers. Yeah. So they are interesting, all the little things that you just don't think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To make our lives fantastic, to right needle to do the job.
Everybody's saying thank you. Wonderful tutorial. Cathy, this has been fantastic. And unless the schedule changes before next week, which, schedules always change, but unless it does, next week, Cathy is going to be on again, I think with Heather Banks, and more quilting. So there's going to be more of this. Everybody's saying thank you.
Yeah, and next week I'll be working with the Design Center to do different designs, so you can do all over quilting with that, so you can see how to add the next design to it without having to have a headache.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's, Michelle, if your machine is producing, what looks like kite shredding your thread. Ooh, that's never good. She said, is it because the needle's too small? Well, it could be multiple things.
Exactly, yeah. Threads are twist and S twist, and sometimes the one twist, and I think it's a Z twist, just likes to shred. It just doesn't like to behave itself. But if you have the eye in your needle, if your eye in your needle is big enough, that thread will not hit or rub on the needle. And the more it rubs on the needle, the more likely it is to shred.
Also, I learned, which was kind of just a fluke thing, but I was having a brand new machine, brand new thread, and then I threw the thread out and grabbed another one. It kept shredding as I embroidered. And what had happened is I had broken a needle while I was embroidering, and it hit the bobbin case and damaged the bobbin case. Put a new bobbin case in, it's like slick, perfect. So if you continue to have problems, check that too. They're not that expensive. You can buy a new one, call your brother dealer. But that has happened twice to me.
Yeah, your needle goes into the bobbin case, and actually, because it moves so fast, puts a hole in the bobbin case, and then that leaves a rough edge on it, and so it can cut that thread. Yeah.
And that's one that I don't think a lot of people realize. And again, like that through the years, now this is like 10 years of embroidery, or 30 years of designing, 10 years of embroidery. It's happened to me twice. And that's because I broke the needle, exactly what you said. And I tried everything else first. You're so frustrated. And then It's something that simple. So you can also bring your machine to your brother dealer. They'll give it a good clean out, and then that will help as well.
And until you can get a new bobbin case, you can take that bobbin case out, but you do want to get a new one and maybe file it down a little bit. If you need to finish your project, file it down with a fingernail file or something just so it's smooth, but be sure that you do replace it when you can.
That's definitely. So Sally, are there tutorials for the Anovus machines? So first of all, Sally, you should go to Brother Sew's YouTube channel. There are a ton of videos from, well, all the way back a long time ago. I remember personally doing videos on the Quattro, and then the Dreamweaver and some of those. So go back on the YouTube channel on Brothers, and you can just scroll through videos or do a search. And there are some things that the other machines do that yours does as well. So you might want to just look by topic. There are a ton of videos. Everybody's saying thank you, thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
Well, thank all of you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I know. It's so nice to see you, Cathy. So for those of you that have never been here before, you can go back and watch this, or you're late to the party. No worries. If you're on Facebook, be sure to share this to your page. Facebook has made some changes the last few weeks. So first of all, make sure you like and follow the Brother Facebook pages. And then when you watch the video, share it to your own page. It's much easier to find. Or you can go back to Brother Sews and watch it. If you're on YouTube, click the button that says subscribe. And every time we go live, you'll get a little pop-up. And also you can go back to Brother. When you go to their page, if you click on videos, which is the second little icon over, you can scroll through all the past live videos. Very easy to do. If you can't find it, you can always message me. I'll help you out. So everyone, thank you, Cathy. What a great tutorial. I can't wait to see you next Thursday unless something changes. But other than that, I'll see you in a week.
All righty. Bye-bye. Take care.
All right. See you, Cathy. All right. For those of you that would like to follow a few things on Brother, let me just bring this up for you real quick. I have brothersews.com. There are some fabulous deals at the Brother dealers right now. There are excellent financing, different deals. So I don't have all of them with me right now, but you might want to check that out. And also the Brother blog is back. So go to brothersews.com, scroll to the bottom, and there's a blog for sewing and a blog for crafting. And all of the information from the old blog has been moved over there. So you can go there, you can rewatch whatever you want to. It's there's a lot of information on there, and I saw a few new things on there as well. So keep an eye out, and as you know, Joanna always has her free design of the month, so you can go back and watch some of those. The blog is back. So we are saying yay. All right, everyone, Saturday we have an It's So Easy episode for you at noon. Otherwise, I will see you next week. I believe, let's see what time next week. We have Emily on, so it'll be 2 p.m. on Tuesday. I saw she didn't do her show this week. She was at the beach. That looked fabulous. All right. Great to see you. Have a great weekend if I don't see you someplace else on the social side. And thanks, Brother, for letting us take over your page again.